To everyone in the room and everyone on this broadcast, good morning. Happy Sunday. Welcome. We are so happy to see you. We're so happy to virtually see you. Thank you for being here. Or I invite you to relax in this moment. Take a few deep breaths. Allow your body and your mind to just be still, just for a moment. Put anything you have going on in your day or week aside. If you feel so inclined, you may close your eyes. Allow your body to rest and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone either physically next to me or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
I had 2 readings picked out this morning out of this book. One if we had a bunch of newcomers and one if we didn't. I'm scanning the room. We had a newcomer the first week we reopened to in-person folks, but she got away. She got away. I have for you this morning, like a chef would say who comes to your table, I have for you today this consomme of, no, seriously, I want to read you a poem. I like this poem. If you like this, obviously I like it, I'm reading it to you. If you like this poem, we may do this more often as actually work it into the service. It's very short. Let our song of praise arise, filling earth and air and skies. Let all earth awake and sing while the heavenly echoes ring. Though we tarry here below, as the seasons come and go, still our lives are one in thee. Bless this perfect unity. Morning dawns so fair and calm, free from sorrow, free from harm. Evening comes at love's behest, when day's labors sink to rest. Bless the morning, noon, and night, filled with beauty, warmth, and light. Bless this life that came from thee, Spirit through eternity. Isn't that nice? That's by somebody named Ernest Holmes. He wrote poetry. He did all kinds of things. It's called Song of Praise, and it's actually in the Essential Ernest Holmes course workbook, which is where I got reacquainted with it because I'm the one who put it in there. And I'm teaching. I'm in the middle of teaching that class right now online, and I saw this and I thought, especially that line about morning dawn so fair and calm. I thought for morning services, this is just beautiful. So I want to acquaint you with somebody named Ralph Waldo Trine. I started a series here last week on his work. There are these writers from the past, from 100 or so years ago, we've lost track of. He's one. This guy was huge in his day. This book, which is, I have a second edition of it, In Tune with the Infinite, was published in 20 languages, millions of this sold. You might never have heard of him, but as I said last week, somebody in your family has. Go back a few generations. This was everywhere. And there's another teacher I'm writing about named Elsie Lincoln Benedict, and that's another story. But his work In Tune with the Infinite, and then Ann Richardson, practitioner, pointed out that today is 8/8. 2 infinity signs. That was not planned, but there you are. The infinite presence within the self requires activity to locate and live from. And today is about living from your center. And I have an Olympic story for you. The Olympics are ending, as you know, today. Congratulations, Allison Felix, America's greatest track and field athlete. won more medals past Houston's Carl Lewis yesterday. Most medals of any athlete in track and field in Olympic history. But I want to tell you about a swimmer, an American male swimmer. I don't have his name. You can follow this up. He sits in the stands waiting for his heat, knitting. He sits there knitting. And he's gotten a lot of grief about this from other swimmers. This is unmanly of you to sit there and knit. Why do you knit? He's actually a very good knitter. He makes stuff for family and friends, you know. But he sits there knitting because it helps him get centered, helps distract him. He could sit there and worry about his swimming times. He could sit there and worry about everything up to and including drowning, I suppose. And instead he knits. And it takes him into a different space in his life. Knitting is also, and this is important, it's a measurable outcome. It's good to have measurable outcomes in your life, especially if you work in kind of a nebulous philosophical area. I like doing things, because I work in a nebulous philosophical area much of the time. I like doing things that have a tangible, measurable outcome. When it's done, you can see that it's done, and it's done reasonably well, or what have you, or then you do it over, you know. Well, he knits, this man. And anymore, I would think, anybody gives him a hard time. He just shoots him a look. And the look says, how many Olympics have you been in? So what I want to suggest to all of us is knitting, figuratively, if not actually. Find a way to reconnect with your center. Find a way to remember who you are. This teaching is so much about remembering who you are before you forgot. I quoted the other day an E.E. Cummings line where it says, children remembered but only a few, and down they forgot as up they grew. Isn't that excellent? Down we forget as up we grow. We forget the simplicity of life. We forget to be grateful for the morning, for the beautiful morning. We come outside, we say it's hot, it's August, it looks more or less like yesterday, it looks more or less like tomorrow, unless it rains. We forget to be grateful. Then we wonder where our bliss went. It takes application, it takes activity, it takes the development of a spiritual program that has measurable moments to it, that you set time aside to do something. I read another quote you might find useful in this regard this week. It said, schedule a time for the things that are good for you. Schedule a time to exercise. Schedule a time to meditate. And then all you have to do is show up. See, if you don't schedule it, how often people say this, you know, I'd love to meditate if I what? Had the time. If I could what? Find the time. This is suggesting first, find the time. As though it were an appointment that you could not break. Make an appointment with yourself to show up and do these things. If you need a little help with that, bear in mind that every morning and every evening on our Facebook page, you have two of our ministers, one each morning and evening, reading improving literature to you, reading inspiring things to you. Start with that as an appointment that you make. It's absolutely free. No salesman will call. You know, you just go to the thing and you sit there and you listen and you enjoy. And then it's like training wheels on the bike, you know? And then you go a little further and you go a little further. And then now you're meditating and you're reading and you've set a time aside for yourself to do some work. Why am I suggesting this? Because we need this in today's world. Trine needed it in his world 100 years ago. He lived from 1866 to 1958, to give you a time frame there. Interesting guy. He was from Illinois. He was highly educated. He became a college professor himself. He was also director of the American Humane Society. He was also director of the Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and he was a vegetarian, and this is some time ago. And he loved to plant fruit trees, which I think is what ultimately took him to California, plus his writing and speaking career. And he and his wife moved into a retirement community in California where they lived out their days. Interesting guy. In Trine's day, he writes about there's trouble in the world. There's uncertainty about what's going to happen tomorrow. Look at the 2 world wars. He was born, right at the end of the Civil War. He lived through 2 world wars and epidemics and famines and the Dust Bowl and all manner of things. There's trouble in the world. I don't know what to do about it, but there is something that does know. I'm going to go connect with that. As I share with you every week. We don't know. We don't know where all of this is going. So I can't know where all of this is going. I have to know where this part of it is going. I have to know what this part of it is doing. And over that, I have control. Donald John Lewis Jr. and I had a conversation on race, you may recall, last fall on this stage. And he said something in that was really, very, very direct and to the point, but it stuck with me. He says, work on what you can control. Work on what you can control. Now, I'd heard that before. I'd heard it in other settings. It's in the Serenity Prayer. Work on what you control. Made me think, what can I control? Let's see, who can I control? Let's make a list of all the people and all the situations out there that I can manage. Real short list, like nobody. I can only control myself. I can only manage my own consciousness. There's no spirituality by proxy. There just flat isn't. And it would be lovely to think so. That a guru, a messiah, came into the world and laid down a path for you, and all you have to do is follow it. Doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter how you feel, just do these things, and you'll get there. You'll go to heaven. That's not how it works. Because all the real gurus and all the real messiahs who come to earth have pointed us back within ourselves. Said, work your own program. Walk your own path. Paddle your own canoe, however you want to put it. Do this thing. Go within yourself. Go within yourself. Look at your motivations, your intentions, your ambitions. Look at what drives you into making the choices that you do. Look at that. Ask yourself, is this what I want? Ha! When I say that, I hear the voice of, you know who? Dick Schmeltzkoft. Is this what you want to manifest? We memorialized him last Sunday. And thank all of you who came to that in this room. And we had it on Zoom. And people spoke. And it was beautiful and wonderful. It was the first time Denise had been here in 18 months. But this was a saying he had. The two of them have still, Is this what you want to create? Is this that you're announcing? The word that goeth forth from my mouth shall not return unto me void, shall prosper. The word that goeth forth from my mouth shall prosper the thing whereunto I send it, and shall not return to me void. That's from Job. The word that goeth forth from my mouth shall prosper the thing whereunto. Who sends it? I send it, and shall not return to me void. That's what I can control, my word. My word with a capital W, which is the local representation of the word that launched all creation. In the beginning was the Word. That's what it says to open the Gospel of John. In the beginning, God looked out and beheld darkness, is how it goes in the first story in Genesis, but it all comes down to the declaration of a word into space, into not exactly a void like nothingness, but into a field of opportunity, a field of possibility. The word is spoken and something manifests. I'm responsible for my own word. That's what I can control. If you don't like the word control, try the word manage. That's what I can manage. Control sounds kind of like under your thumb, you know. But managing, I can navigate my way through life using my word. So Trine said, well, there's trouble in the world and all of this, so I have to turn within. So we could say the same thing now. Now, Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. I have not looked up the Greek of that would have been taken from the Aramaic of that would have been said 80 to 100 years before it turned into Greek and got written down, to see exactly what he said. But just going off what we know and we have in the customary translations of the poor will always be with you, it sounds kind of depressing, doesn't it? Sounds kind of negative. Dick Schmeltzkoft might have turned to Jesus and said, is that what you want to create? That would have been interesting to be there for that conversation. Maybe what he meant, or no, that's overstepping. Here's what I take from it. The poor will always be with you, is this. Society will never be as healthy as we hope it to be, because it involves the choices of all of us. Yep. Society will never get to the place, certainly, where it will take over the job of creating individual reality because it's just so nice and so blissful. Always, it's going to come back to the self. So I'm reading the other day ideas about the afterlife. Do you have an idea about the afterlife? If you're young enough, you haven't given it a lot of thought, and then, you know, it starts to, as they say, you may hear footsteps, you know, and you start thinking about the afterlife, and I wonder what the afterlife's like. And they're all different theories. This teaching doesn't have a strong eschatology, this religious science that we're doing here, so we say whatever you want to believe is fine. Ernest Holmes believed that we continue on in an upward spiral, forever and ever expanding through countless dimensions of beingness. And they asked him, do you think we come back here? And he said, I don't know. He said, basically, if we do come back here, it's a choice. You're not sent back here, you know, to work stuff off. It's more like, hey, can I have another run at that? You know, sure. Well, one of the theories of the afterlife that comes from neo-paganism and also spiritualism is called the Summerland. Have you heard of the Summerland? And the Summerland's a place where you go where it's like, well, summer. and it's a meadow, and it's pretty, and there's butterflies, and there's birds, and it's kind of, I don't want to cartoon it, but I'm having to. In my mind, it's sort of Disney-esque, you know, this, right? Talking animals and all this. It's sweet and wonderful. Of course, you say to a Texan, you go to Summerland. We're like, can I have Autumnland? Maybe Springland, but, you know. But anyhow, and I guess this idea was come up with by people in the northern climes where summer is like, you know, as good as it gets. But anyhow, if you picture a Summerland experience where it's just every day's a picnic, you know, sooner or later, somebody's going to get fed up. Somebody's going to get bored. Somebody's going to say, you got more goodies in your picnic basket than I got in mine. There's going to be some misunderstanding. I'm not saying they necessarily come to blows, but you know, there's going to be some edginess to it. Why? Because if that weren't possible, we wouldn't take our personalities there. If we didn't take our personalities there, we wouldn't know we were there, and it wouldn't be Summerland, and it wouldn't make a difference, and he might as well just put us in a box in the ground, you know? As long as we get to be who we are, we get to challenge authority, we get to rebel, we get to push back, we get to overstep, and we get to apologize. We get to have the full range of human expression. No matter where you go, there you are. So it all comes back to the self and the management of the self, one step at a time. And what Dick Schmeltzkoft had to say, his advice, is good. It's incomplete. And he would tell you, because it wasn't the only thing he said or the only thing he believed. In fact, he wrote reams and reams of poetry, and your story was fantastic, Mel B. That yours and Chris's story, that was just brilliant. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask her afterward, because it was like we all were just blown away by that. But his statement of, is this what you wish to create? It's more accurate than it isn't. Of course, there's a time when you have to call the thing as you see it. You have to say, this isn't working. You have to say, you know, I can't climb this mountain right now. And that's not negative, that's just factual. But then you remember that back of the facts, there exists the truth of you, which is that you are already immortal. You are already infinite, timeless, uncontainable. And it's to that place that you go in your spiritual work, and you draw from that, and then you bring it back into the world. And all of these different faith traditions talk about going out and coming in, going out and coming in, going out into the world and coming back into the sacred space, going upstairs, going into the upper room, you know, going into that place where you are reminded who you are by the power that made you. And then you go back out into the world, and you're no longer quite as moved around by it. In fact, you even become an agency for change. You become a beneficial presence, more of a beneficial presence. You become somebody who, just by your being on the scene, help has arrived. Help has arrived. Just by you showing up. Isn't that an awesome place to be? And I don't mean you get awards and honors for this and people notice and everything else, but you know, and the situation then is free to change. Just because somebody's come on the scene who's seen into the infinite, in the midst of the finite. People are tearing their hair out over it being the finite. You've come and you've seen the infinite. You've said, okay, there's something else that could be here instead of this. And this is what I'm calling for now. Now, I personally am still naive enough, and I choose to be, to believe that we can have a society of joy, that we can have a society of love on this earth. I don't know how it's going to happen. It hasn't fully happened yet. We've had glimpses of it here and there, but I completely believe that it's possible. And if not in my physical lifespan on this earth, at some point. And so what I can control is not when this is going to occur and all of earth is going to break out into song and everybody's going to get along with equal rights for everyone. I have no control over that, and if I look at that as though I did, it's overwhelming to me. What I can be is a beneficial presence. What I can be is a teller of truth in my own life, and so can all of us. We can be a place of love, a place of compassion, a place of comfort for the world. So, I want to read you a little Trine. If you haven't read Trine, T-R-I-N-E. We have a couple of copies left in the bookstore. We can get you more if you want. Everything in the material universe about us, everything the universe has ever known, had its origin first in thought. From this it took its form. Every castle, every statue, every painting, every piece of mechanism, everything had its birth, its origin, first in the mind of the one who formed it before it received its material expression or embodiment. The very universe in which we live is the result of the thought energies of God, the infinite spirit that is back of all. And if it is true, as we have found, that we in our true selves are in essence the same, and in this sense are one with the life of this infinite spirit, do we not then see that in the degree that we come into a vital realization of this stupendous fact, we, through the operation of our interior spiritual thought forces, have in like sense creative power? See, we do have this creative power. At a local version, at a stepped down, microcosmic version of the all. I do not need to know the grand intention of the universe. I would have nowhere to put it. I don't need all knowledge everywhere. There's an internet for that. No, I don't need all knowledge everywhere. I can find what I need. But I need what I need. And I know what I need. And I know where to go to get it. To be reminded that I'm enough. One last thing on this. When you ask for answers, very often you get symbols. When you ask for answers, very often you get processes. When you were in school and you asked the teacher for an answer, did the teacher not most usually give you a problem to work out so that you could find the path to the answer yourself? So if you said when you were very little, I don't understand how 2 + 2 = 4, or I don't understand what the sum of 2 + 2 is, the teacher didn't just say it's 4, now memorize that, because that doesn't begin to teach you arithmetic. It teaches you memorization, which isn't a bad skill, but it's not arithmetic. Instead, what the teacher did get out 4 apples or 4 somethings. It's in 2 sets of 2. So boom, boom, and boom, boom, and you put them together, and then you learn to count. You see, and then you take one away. Now you got 3, and on and on. And so you began, in your little kid mind, you began to look at things and group them into sets, right? And you 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? And you're right. And so you had language courses. How do I say this? Well, how do you say the stuff that you know to say? Do that first. You know, construct the verb or what have you, and then maybe there's a piece of vocabulary that you need. But you were given a process. By good teachers, you were given a process. They didn't just hand you the answer. Similarly, you know, if you took a class where the textbook had the answers in the back, and you went to the back and you just filled in all the answers, all of your quizzes got really good grades, didn't they? All of your open book stuff. And then the exam came and you were lost because you hadn't learned the process. There's another word for that, but you get the point. So when you ask, Spirit, what should I do? Spirit will, on the one hand, like a therapist, say, well, what do you feel like doing? What do you think you should do? And on the other hand, it'll set a process in motion whereby you overhear a conversation or a song on the radio or something else comes your way that seems completely irrelevant to where you're going, but it carries with it necessary information to do the next right thing. You get a process. You get dreams, sleeping dreams. You get waking dreams. You also get very often an opening of the reservoir of feeling. Opening of the reservoir of feeling. Because that's where your power is. It's in the feeling. Thought directs. Feeling moves. Feeling moves creation. Thought steers it. Sometimes thought stands back a little in the steering of it and lets it do its thing. So bear this in mind. It's not like we were taught, where God has a plan for you and it's written down like the menu, like the specials of the day. If only you would follow this plan, you do this and this and this. That's not how it works. Because what Spirit needs of you is to extend its own creation in particularity, you know, by the choices that you make, by carrying it some new way. So, Ralph Waldo Trine, check him out. It's good stuff. Fell kind of into a gap because it's dated. His examples are old-fashioned. His languaging is old-fashioned. Don't let that fool you. Don't let that stop you. This stuff is written in lightning. You know who one of his biggest fans was? Who read him talk? Queen Victoria, for crying out loud. Queen Victoria really liked what this man had to say, and others at the time. You know, did it affect her governance? I have no idea. But it can't have hurt. Can't have hurt. Had to introduce some concept in there of oneness, the unity of all life, as he speaks of it. So let's know together now. We're going to speak a word of power, a word of truth, a word of optimism. There is one life. That life is spirit. That life is all the life there is. That life is my life right now. Nothing stands between me and it. There's no opposition, no contention, no hesitation, no restriction. So what there is a clear and open highway into my good. My good is inseparable from the good of this world, for it harms no one, takes nothing from anybody, depletes nothing in the universal sense. Instead, it enriches, it inspires, it enlivens. As I am a better human, I am a better citizen of this nation and this planet. As I live my life in love, I lift everyone up around me. And this love infiltrates my physical being, settles into my organs and actions and functions, strengthens me, protects me, while I make wise and sensible choices as to how to conduct myself physically in this world. I meet spirit halfway through these choices. By agreeing to show up as the intrepid soul that I am, not willing to take a second-hand spirituality, not willing to simply accept a furnished story, but someone who goes directly to the source of all creation for an unmediated relationship and a direct conversation. I stand tall and strong before the God of my understanding. And my heart is filled with thank you. Thank you for this amazing life, for this opportunity to be who I am, and to interact with all these other amazing godlings that surround me in this world. For this knowing and the way that it manifests in form, this day and every day, I am, again, so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, with whom I am in tune. And I let it be, and so it is.
So it is. And now, as our ushers make their way back to the back area, and we come to giving time, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here. It is your word, it is your presence, it is your being that allows us to be here, that allows this message to go forth. I also ask you, if this resonates with you, to like and share and make sure you follow for additional messages and words. And with that, I also invite you right now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I was a little scared of the microphone. Every time I have touched the iPad today, I've shocked myself. But apparently I've grounded myself enough on the iPad that it didn't shock me when I picked up the microphone. So Tom Daley, that's his name, the swimmer, and diver. He's actually a diver. He's also British, not American, but we won't go there. I knew exactly who you were talking about, though, as soon as you mentioned him, because I watched him. I also followed him on Instagram, because he has an Instagram called Made with Love by Tom Daley. And that's where he shares all of the things that he knits. So if you're on Instagram and want to follow a knitting Instagram, that's what it is. Made with Love by Tom Daley. And it occurred to me, if you're on social media asks you, hey, do you want a motto? So my motto is patience is a virtue. I get to practice it a lot. Because I have a relationship with patience, which, if you can tell by the tone of my voice, isn't the best. Except I learned a new definition of patience. Patience is what you do while you are waiting. So for Tom Daley, patience between his heats, when he could be winding himself up and worrying and just in general freaking himself out, is knitting. Because it's calming, it's soothing, and he creates absolutely gorgeous things. Go look at the sweater he made for himself. Or the little koozie for his gold medal. Because, yeah, he got one of those. That's what patience is. And it occurred to me that I have this relationship with patience, but I buy purses with one thing in mind. Can I get a book in it? Yeah. This is my patience. So when Jesse said, well, go back and look at, well, what do you do when you're waiting? What do you do when you're waiting? What is it that you do to not worry about what it is that you're waiting for? What does your patience look like? For me, it looks like a paperback book. For Tom Daley, it looks like knitting. What is it that you do? Start there. And then maybe, just maybe, you'll discover you have a much better relationship with patience than you thought you did. So in knowing that, because I know something that has infinite patience, there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And in that love, I am held. That love flows in me, as me, through me, out into the world. I am literally the activity of that love. And as I know that I am this activity of that love, so too do I know that each and every one of you are that activity of love. We are beloved children of God. We are made by love, with love, in love. And that love flows through us. And in that love, anything is possible. The world that we envision is possible. When we walk into a room and we look and we see, are we looking with the eyes of love? Because when we look with the eyes of love, we are that beneficial presence. We are that Kuan Yin, that Bodhisattva, that presence in life, that spirit in life that says, I see, but I see more. I see beyond. I know. These are my hands, how may I help? But with my heart and my eyes, I see beyond the help that I am here to provide. I see the resources moving. I see the love moving. I see the world up-leveling. I see peace. I see joy. I see harmony. And I see each and every one of you. I know who you are. And so do you. And I'm grateful to know this. I'm grateful to know this from the core of my being. I'm grateful to know this from that place of infinite patience, that place of infinite love, that place that we all go and come back from. And I know it as so it is. And so it is.
Say it with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I
I
am.
choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.